In this case, Tony, the number one piece of evidence that I think are the ace that the prosecution is holding are these five confessions that, again, weren't to law enforcement. They were recorded on uh, maximum security prison house phones.
Hmm.
That is going to be, for me, I just want to hear those. I want to see if he is sounding in his right mind or delirious.
Yeah. And I'm assuming we're going to hear those in court. Obviously, that could be up for debate if in fact it doesn't necessarily play to the prosecution, because it doesn't sound like someone's in their right mind. Are we going to hear that, or could it? I mean, could that even be used as a defense for Richard Allen? I mean, it seems like an interesting one to pull up a confession in court to use to your defense, but could that actually happen if in fact it does sound like there's something very mentally wrong going on with Richard Allen?
Well, I think they'll come in because they were obtained legally.
Hmm.
I don't think they'll be able to fight that. It'll be the skew that each side paints of
Hmm.
it. Obviously the prosecution is going to say, well, Al, listen, it's in his own words. He's talking to his mom and his wife. And the defense is going to say, yeah, after being locked up in a maximum security prison, from CVS counter and a middle class home, normal life, to being in a maximum security penitentiary, he lost his mind. He was
Hmm.
eating paper. I mean, all you have to do is look at pictures of Richard Allen and know his physical state was just terrible. And that affects mental state. So I'll be very interested to see and hear, or I should say, hear those conversations and the arguments made about them. I think it's interesting, though. I believe they withdrew
Hmm.
the motion for the records,
Yeah,
his medical records.
they did. Prosecutor Nick McClelland filed a motion to withdraw his most recent request for Richard Allen's mental health records. That would be because he got access to them when he shouldn't have had access to them the way that they were filed. But somehow he got access to them and then, like, oh, I'm going to take these back. I don't need them. I shouldn't have even known that these existed like this. You can have them back. That I found rather interesting. Just kind of more bizarreness going on behind the curtain of Delphi. How much do you think mental health is going to play a role in this trial, whether it be for the defense or the prosecution of Richard Allen?
I think it's going to play a huge role as it pertains to those confessions. I think that is going to be the crux of which the defense is going to try to, bring forth that, listen, these confessions aren't real confessions. They're, uh, you know, words of a madman who was driven mad because of his conditions. I think that's going to be, they're going to have to convince a jury of that, because depending on what's said on them, they could be quite damning if he provides information or details that either weren't known or that fall in line with the crime scene photos, which at least at that point no one saw.
Hmm.
Um, it's
It'll
going to
be
be
telling.
interesting. I shouldn't say that because I guess he would have seen them as a part of discovery. But remember, there were all sorts of issues with his defense attorneys even being able to pass documents to him to view.
Hmm. Hmm.
It'll be interesting whether how much he has even been able to help in his own defense.
It will. I mean, the interview that was done with the attorney that his name escapes me at this second, but he was the one who was basically kind of the fill-in between when Rosie and Baldwin were kicked off the case. Then you had the other one come in, and his testimony, his experience with Richard Allen in that maximum security prison, literally having to sit outside his door and try to communicate through a little hole. I think that in itself was extremely telling of how this is all going.
Yeah, it was terrible, and having to keep his distance and the passing of documents. I don't know how a person can possibly help in their own defense if they can't read their documents and aren't seeing their attorneys on a
Mhm.
very, very regular basis. We don't even know how much Rossi and Baldwin have been able to see him.
No.
Um, But they want to move forward. I think it's a brilliant move on their part because it couldn't be denied by the judge. And moreover, now everything is sped up. She has to make decisions regarding the Franks hearing and all this other or motions that have been filed. So it was pretty brilliant, I think, to light a fire under it.
How much of a slam dunk case is it when he turns around and eventually sues the state?
Oh
Because
my gosh. Well, it depends. I mean, I always in this situation, I want to know what's always bothered me is what happened that got their spotlight back on Richard Allen. I just think there's something that we're not seeing that has to do with him either confessing to somebody or some nugget like that
Mhm.
that now that they knew to go back to him.
Sure.
And I'm not buying the whole thing. Well, we reviewed again. No, I'm not buying that. There was something stronger than that that led them to reinvestigate him, I believe.
Yeah, just what is that? And that may be a bombshell that we find out during the trial, or it may be like, really, this is what this is what has kept you go. This really, there's no I think length to how strange this case can get, and there's still a lot of time to come in it.
Yeah, I agree, Tony. And all that said, whether he's guilty or whether he's innocent, the way he's been treated throughout this process is diabolical
Yeah.
and should never happen in our criminal justice systems. I keep asking via Twitter, via social media, via mainstream media, find one more case for me where somebody was put in a maximum security prison pre conviction unless they did something in jail,
Hmm.
threatened somebody's life
Yeah.
or escaped or something like that. Find that case for me. I'm still waiting.
Yeah. You will be waiting forever. This is going to be the one that people talk about. Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you like the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and press that bell so you don't miss any of our updates on the cases we're following for you right here at the Hidden Killers podcast from True Crime Today. And thanks